This video details how to change the fuel filter on a '99 Volkswagen Passat. Parts-wise, we are going to be replacing the fuel filter. This is happens to be a Motorcraft FG1109. I only got it because it's on sale on Amazon. There are many that'll fit, but just make sure you are getting the right part that will fit your car. I'm going to be replacing 4 5/16 inch hose clamps here. These are the they're solid on the inside. They're not they aren't the ones that have the little loops in it. Apparently this is the kind you want if you're going to be clamping fuel hose. And I spent a couple bucks and got a replacement piece of fuel hose here, 5/16 inch fuel hose. It's a couple bucks. I figure it's cheap insurance just in case the old hose was brittle. On this car, the fuel filter is located on the rear passenger side under here. I put mine back up on ramps. If you have a jack stand, you could raise it on this side. It just gives you a little more clearance to be able to see what's going on under there. And under here, there is a piece of plastic shielding. Mine is already slightly loosened because I've started doing stuff. There are two 10mm bolts or nuts. There's one up here that you can see, and then there is one inside this hole that you will need a slight extension for. You could take the entire thing off, but there's a Phillips head screw in the center that makes it really difficult to get that back in. So I am just going to undo these two bolts and pull this out of the way. Once you have removed the two nuts, pull it down. This is where a bungee cord can be very helpful to keep it out of the way. We are now under the car looking up, and here is the fuel filter we will be replacing. We are also going to replace this section of hose here, and these clamps are not reusable, so we'll need to cut those off. And this clamp here as well we'll need to cut off. I won't be replacing this section of hose. This goes all the way up to the fuel pump and the fuel tank. So we really will be only using 3 of the hose clamps that I showed you earlier. But before we get excited and we actually start pulling this stuff out, there are a few things we need to do. To minimize the amount of fuel that is leaking out of there while we take everything apart, online they say to do 2 things. One is take the cap off your gas tank. Now I'm not entirely sure how much this is going to help, but this is one of the steps that they said. The second suggestion is to take out fuse 28. So this is 28 right here. It's third from the bottom. Look at your fuse card and verify which one is the actual fuel pump relay, but this is what it is in my car. So we're going to take this fuse out. Then we're going to start the car. It'll run for a while. Wait till the car dies, because it'll run out of fuel, and then try to start it a couple more times just to make sure, and that should relieve the fuel pressure in the system. Third, we are going to be dealing with gas here, hopefully not a lot of it, but just to be safe, be sure you're in a well-ventilated area, and it goes without saying, have a fire extinguisher ready, know how to use it, just in the worst case scenario, and try not to do this with a hot exhaust system. We want to minimize any chance we have of starting a fire. I've removed the fuse. I ran the car until it would no longer start, and we're going to start by removing these two 10mm bolts to remove this bracket that holds the fuel filter in place. With the bracket unbolted, this will hang down quite a bit and you have some room to work with things. We're going to spread this apart a little, and we're going to push it up and try to remove the bracket by slipping it over this hose, just so we have an easier area to work. Now that we have the bracket removed, we'll want to remove these clamps. Be careful because some gas will spill out of here. Make sure to have a rag and maybe a cup handy. And note the direction of flow of the filter. You'll want to install the new filter in the same direction, obviously. I've removed the old fuel filter, the clamps, the old piece of hose. This is an extended reach diagonal cutter. Without it, I don't know if I would have been able to remove those clamps. And these are the replacement parts. So we're going to have 3 of these little screw-on but solid on the inside clamps, new filter, and new piece of hose. Pulling the old hoses off of this filter was difficult, but as soon as I was able to rotate it, so hold the hose in place and rotate this until it unsticks, then you should be able to wiggle the 2 hoses free. And another note, this does have a lot of gas in it, so and the existing lines do as well, so Be prepared with either a cup or something to collect about maybe a cup or so of gas. The new filter has been installed, the clamps have been sufficiently tightened, and now let's go test it out. Make sure to put back in the gas cap. Reinsert fuse 28 this way. There will be power to the fuel pump. And ignore this wire. This is definitely not regulation. Turn the key to position 2 a couple times. And then turn it back off. This should engage the fuel pump to help fill up that new filter. And then give it a start. Now I've already started it because I had camera problems. So it should start fine. Go under the car. Verify that it isn't leaking because mine definitely was leaking a lot. So I had to tighten those hose clamps. So go ahead, tighten those hose clamps if you need to. Test it again. And then bolt everything back together. And hope this helps some of you guys out there.